China discovered America. Share about that. That seems like a massive, massive project that then, what happened to it?
Well, it was. The Emperor Zhudi was a gigantic figure, and he decided that he would codify and record every single thing which Chinese scientists, astronomers, geographers, physicists, chemists had found over the preceding 2,000 years of Chinese history. And he had a team of 3,000 scholars working on this gigantic encyclopedia. And they worked for years and years and years. And then when the Forbidden City was inaugurated in 1421, this massive encyclopedia, 10,000 volumes, was placed in the Emperor's library in the Forbidden City. So it was a huge, huge undertaking. And sadly, it's been in the Boxer uprising and the European invasions and so on. It's great. Most of this huge encyclopedia has been destroyed, but bits and pieces are still available in America, in Chicago, and in Cambridge University, and so on.
I wonder if other countries have had projects like that where that level of knowledge is assembled and synthesized and stored somewhere. It would be interesting to note. It
would. I don't know, I'm afraid.
The Grand Canal that you talk about, where 6 million people who worked on it perished.
Yes.
Describe it. It was so disturbing, and yet 6 million people is a lot of people. That was huge. Talk about that.
It was. Well, the Chinese needed to get... You can't grow grain very well in northern China because it's very cold in winter, and you can't grow rice at all. And so they needed to ship rice from the warm, fertile south up. When Zhudi, the emperor, moved his capital from Nanjing in the south to Beijing in the north, they had a huge problem with feeding everyone. So to feed them, he decided to build this Grand Canal and build thousands of special craft to ply up and down the canal, and they would carry the rice up to the north. Now, the problem was that Beijing is higher than Nanjing in altitude, and there were various hills en route. So they had to have a system of locks, so they could get ships up the hill and down the hill, going from Nanjing to Beijing. So at the same time as they dug this huge canal, they built a very clever lock system, which enabled ships to traverse the canal as and when they wanted.
So why did 6 million people perish building the Grand Canal?
I must confess, I'd forgotten that I said they perished. Millions perished. I think basically they didn't have enough food.
Wow, that's...
China was a slave society. I regret to say, in Zhudi's time. In practice, though not necessarily that wasn't necessarily the intention, but Zhudi's extravaganzas in building this vast fleet, in building the Grand Canal, rebuilding the Great Wall, building the Temple of Heaven and the Emperor's tombs and all the rest of it, it basically bankrupted China to such an extent the poor farmers were reduced to eating grass. They had absolutely nothing. And so to this day, Zhudi is a very, very unpopular emperor.
Wow. What can you say about the other evidence? The treasure fleet runs aground, some of the other evidence for people to be pondering, and why should they read this book?
Well, why should they read it? I suppose I'd answer because people in 130 other countries have read it, so there must be some reason people do. They're not all mad. I hope they'll find it interesting. They might not, but if they do, I hope they'll join the club. They'll email us with what they consider is right about the book and wrong about the book and new discoveries. We rely on a continuous flood of new evidence.
Do people support your continued work besides buying the books? Are they sending in donations to you, or how does it work now?
No donations, but evidence. What we crave new evidence, and that as long as that pours in, we're fine because we can write new books. So every day we have this stream of new evidence comes in, which is completely fascinating.
The thing that's kind of refreshing about all of this is that you're willing to be wrong. You're willing to have made a mistake. You're willing for your findings to be expanded or changed, etc. Or if there's a earlier discovery, that you're not ready to squelch discoveries that came even before this. I think that's extraordinary.
Well, you're very kind, but you must remember I have personally discovered just about nothing. Almost everything which has come to our website, which has enabled us to write new books and so on, has been through readers of the books and their ideas. So in a way, I'm in a very fortunate position that I know very little, and therefore I look forward to reading what people say.
Marcella, your wife, has been hugely empowering and inspirational and traveled with you and been a huge support of your projects.
Yes, she has.
How has she taken the information? Has she been as excited as you? How has it worked for her along the way?
I think, she's much more pragmatic than I am. She's much more sensible and down to earth. But yes, she's very, very excited. She has her own business. She owns a business center. And so she's got a full-time job on that, and that's what really financed my research in the early days. So she's obviously delighted. And it's very, very interesting. We do travel a lot, give talks all over the place, and that's very interesting for her. She meets new people, and so she loves it, yeah.
I think it's extraordinary, too, that she's so heavily supported the discoveries and the exploration work, because it's uncommon, actually. These projects are so huge and have such wide-range ramifications that, on a personal note, if you don't have the right personal support, sometimes even putting all this together can be obstructed. So I think it's an extraordinary blessing that you've had with her.
Well,
and
thank you.
It's true.
I agree.
It's really, really true. And it can make or break your ability to function and think clearly and assemble. And so God bless you, Marcella, for all the work you've done and support to Gavin and the projects and all of it.
I'll tell her. She'll be very pleased.
But
thank you.
It really, really is true. The thing that struck me in 1421, and it's a side note, I never knew this, was about the role of eunuchs in protecting the aura and sanctity and secrecy of the imperial throne. Yes. I was shocked by that.
Yes, it's a disgusting custom. Why on earth the emperor did it, I cannot think. Castrating people is just barbaric. But even more extraordinary, those who were castrated remained extraordinarily loyal, which is just totally bizarre to my way of thinking.
I understand when zhudi
Yeah.
passed on, that many of the women were buried alive with him.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's true. Yes, they were.
That was pretty shocking.
Horrible. Yes, he was an exceptionally cruel man, as well as being exceptionally ambitious and clever.
The ships you describe are huge and advanced.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese ships that set sail.
Yeah.
What was different about those ships than the ships that were used to set sail with Columbus and Magellan?
Well, they were, Columbus and Magellan's fleets could both have been put in the hold of one of Zheng He's ships. They were just gigantic. They were over 400 foot long, the biggest ones, over 100 foot wide. They could carry 1,000 people. They could stay at sea for weeks and weeks on end. They grew their own rice and their own vitamins. They kept animals in coops. They kept fish in tanks. They could desalinate seawater.
That is extremely advanced.
Yeah. It was. They were technical marvels. And funny enough, the docks where they were built, you can go and see them in Nanjing today. You can just see the huge size of the dry docks in central Nanjing.
Do some people think that you are Chinatizing, if you will, the world by I guess pointing and illuminating the level at which the Chinese